Welcome to the Knife Show. I don't know. I haven't done one of these in a minute, and I've I every week tried to pick some sort of knife I'm gonna get or whatever. And this week I'm on a particular roller coaster because Smoky Mountain Knife Works gave me a 10% off coupon, and I figured out how to do something on there that's called Zezel that lets you split it into four payments. And the combination means that basically I could get $300 worth of shit for $60, and the world's gonna end. So I'm gonna do that shit. And like we'll be poor later, but yeah. So now that we've decided we're gonna spend like $300 at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, I've been debating what to get. And we started out this journey at case knives because I don't know, fallen down the rabbit hole of fucking pocket knives, hardcore. You've been following the knife show, you know that. And I think at some level I am going to get some sort of a case knife. I There's a 1095 Trapper in Burlap Micarta. I'm gonna get one of those. I think they're only $67. That's gonna be my experiment into case. How I like that case knife will determine if we buy more case knives. But I had four or five others picked out. I was just gonna go hog wild on case knives, and basically just I've decided that's stupid. I do want to get several patterns of case knife, but we can get them slowly over time. There is they released a Volt pattern this year that's a little tiny Congress that some point in this year I would like to get the one of those that I want. Maybe I should do that. But the Burlap Micarta, I think they went out of production last year, so other things have more priorities. The other cases I was looking at were a Seahorse Whittler and a Stockman, and I really like Stockman, and I can't decide which version I want. The reason I can't decide is because the Stockman, the 75 Stockman, I think they call it, it's the big one. That's my favorite case knife, and I could just buy every one of those that they make, basically. That is the addiction of case knives. That's why I'm hesitant even to buy one of those. But I think the logical me says I should buy the one that I want most and just have one. That's what I'm doing with the Trapper. I can easily do that with a Trapper. I just want to have a Trapper because my grandpa had a Trapper, and I like 1095 and I like Burlap Micarta, so this is a no-brainer on that one. So if we're not going to get a bunch of case knives, I thought, what about getting something really modern and high end that's slip joint? And I got down the rabbit hole of Jack Wolf knives. If you've not checked out Jack Wolf knives, they're fucking cool. They come in a tube. They have a bunch of art with them. They're old school slip joints, but they're made of titanium and they have crazy handle materials on them, and they're just bitchin'. I don't think I'll ever buy one of those now because the thing that had me looking at them was uh, they have one called the Low Drag Jack. That's kind of like a what's that called? Teardrop pattern, kind of Barlow looking thing with a club foot blade on it. I like it. If I'm gonna buy a Jack Wolf, that would be the one I would buy, and it's $300. So this is the hey, we could just get that. But I've come more to my senses since thinking that, and you know, spending $300 on a single blade slip joint pocket knife is stupid. Especially when I'm already trading cutlery lover for a single blade slip joint pocket knife. That's the other thing that's I gotta mention in this is it's HSK Machine Works Lenny's clip. You can Google that. I'm getting one of those from Cutlery Lover. I'm sending him a bunch of metal and he's sending me a knife. I don't know what else is going to get worked out in that deal. If anything, I might send him something that I made or something just for the hell of it. Um, Anywho, this has then led us to, okay, so we're not going to get a $300 slip joint. Well, what could we get? And I shopped around, and I've had the whole time that I've been playing with this in my head, I've had the Boker Balisong on my wish list for like the last 6 months, and I keep putting it in the cart and taking it out of the cart, even in the last week or so, last day, while looking through all these slip joints. I have the Balisong in there too, kicking around, so I would like to get it. And I thought about what else I really need, and need is a strong word. I want to finish out my EDC, and that's kind of, the Balisong is a part of that, but that's more of a collection thing. I don't think that's the real answer to my EDC problem, because my EDC problem is that I have a Swiss Army knife and a multi-tool, and I have a little more Eldris, and I want something other than the Eldris. I'm probably still going to carry the Eldris because it's a handy shit knife, but it's too small to be like a primary defensive / survival knife. And towards this end, I don't really like folders that much, and that led us down the path of looking at ESEE knives. And like, I've always liked the I've never owned one while they were called ESEEs. Back in the day, they were Randall Training Adventure knives from Ontario, and I had the Rat 3 in D2, which is basically exactly the ESEE 3. It was the first one to have their sheath like they do and everything. Like, ESEE knives is a whole giant story. Let's talk about them for a minute, because they started out getting their shit made by Newt Livesey, who is one of my mentors. Newt Livesey makes knives in somewhere between Springdale, Arkansas, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's been doing it forever. I'm distantly related to him, and we always hung out at gun shows and talked knife making, and I got a bunch of the how-to early on from him. And he was selling RTAC 2s that were custom because he was the one that invented them. And Ontario kind of fucked him over, and ESEE fucked him over even more. Like, I don't know the full story of all of that, but I would love to hear the fucking details of it, because somehow ESEE ends up making all of the shit that ever made Newt Livesey famous in shit that's not his designs. So, like, they took the style and the finishing and the handle materials and the everything of his knives that he did for their RTAC 2, that he designed for them, and they used that on everything going forward and gave him no credit for it. That has always kind of like not set well with me, but at the same time, I love their shit because it's Newt Livesey's designs. So that's kind of, I've never not financially supported ESEE or anything like that. I've bought several of their blades because they make good shit. But I would love to hear the fucking what fors and whys of why Livesey made the RTAC 2, then Ontario made the RTAC 2, and now ESEE has formed a new thing, and their new version is the Hungless, I guess. Like, they abandoned that RTAC 2 thing. I think they abandoned the RTAC 2 because it was a legal hassle for them. That's why they make the Hungless now instead. Which, I think the Hungless looks like a great blade. I'm not really a big fan of the bigger knives. I never was. I never owned an RTAC 2. I owned about 1 billion Newt Livesey knives, though. It's a whole rabbit hole to go down. I'll do a chat sometime on Newt Livesey knives I owned and shit like that. I wish I had some of those back, but at the same time, I sold them to get money to make knives, and I needed to let go. I get that way with shit. I get attached to it, and it's good to let go. Anyway, though, this has got me looking at the SE4 as like an EDC blade. And I'm looking at the S35VN version. And, you know, ordinarily I'd be like, oh, I get the 1095. But I'd kind of like to have a stainless on the, if this is going to be an everyday beater. And it's not that much more for the stainless version. And it's, right now, I can't get the 1095 one that I would buy, but I can get the S35VN one. And I'm going to put Knife Connection, I think is the name of it, scales on it. Found some of those that are in like a red G10 that's sculpted that looks, it looks bitchin'. And it comes with a set of Canvas micarta scales. So like one or the other of those scales would be what I would want on it, depending on what I'm going to go do. So like if you're going to be around a lot of water, I would opt for the Canvas micarta. If you're not going to be around a lot of water and it's going to be like an EDC blade in the city, man, those little skinny red G10, that would have a lot of fucking advantages, just in my mind. And I found a belt slide thing for it that's $12 on Etsy. That's a piece of leather and some screws. That I think that's what I'm going to do as a standoff with it too. But it makes it to where, you know, like on this thing, instead of having this here, it just has a square of leather on the back that has pass-throughs in both directions. That's what I'm thinking now for my like primary blade. And that knife is only $139.99, which is half of what the fucking Jack Wolf is. The Jack Wolf was $300. And now that seems fully reasonable to me to get that fucking Essie. And I don't know, I'm kind of just going to be done with it, other than buying knives from like a collector standpoint. So like I have some Spydercos that I want to get, and I have some case knives that I want to get. A couple Balisongs, but like all of that shit is just, it's not users. This is like fun shit that I might use. Backup knives, whatever. It's money. It's a lot of shit. But the Essie, I'm planning to make this thing a fucking workhorse. Like I've got several kind of pocket fixed blades that I tote around now that like I would like to have just one. I just have all of those like in my collection box thing. Other than the Eldris. The Eldris is really fucking handy because it's like $26. You can sharpen it in about 5 seconds because it's a fucking Mora knife. And you can use it to scrape crap off of things. And you know, it's nice to have a knife like that. That's why like I don't think that knife's going anywhere. However, it is not good at everything. And I want like a, I've been shopping for daggers. And I think this is going to be the dagger I buy. It's like a survival dagger. Because you can stab somebody with an Essie knife just as easy as you can with anything. And like this is like, my overall length requirements on this are like 8 to 9 inches or shorter. Something like that. Maybe 10 inches with the sheath and everything. It needs to be a fairly small, compact knife. Blade length doesn't matter so much. Handle length matters more. I think like I would like a more compact handle, which the Essies have. And I don't know. I liked that handle when I had it on the Rat 3. This is pretty much what I've, you know, sold myself on is we're going to get an Essie knife. And some of this is I want to stop spending money on knives, which I never will. But if I get to the point where like I have what I use and the rest are just like play toys, then it's a lot less important. Other than, hey, they're not making this anymore and I want to get one, and like that's a lot of the knives that people buy now. So, me included, you know, that's why I've kind of been looking at shit like this because I like carrying shit like this. This is a Kershaw Culpepper in copper. And like, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but like I'm buying fixed blades, slip joints, balisongs, and like multi tools. Not that interested in fucking like Spydercos and Benchmades and whatever. Although I do have a short list of those. My short list of Spydercos and Benchmades and shit are Blazer has an Endura 4 and a PM2 for me that are cheap. The PM2 is $70. I'm like, yeah, give me that. And I'm gonna get a set of Flytanium natural G10, the Jade G10, like this thing. For it, they're like $50, and I don't think I'll ever carry or use that knife, but I'd like to have that. It tickles my fancy. And I want a Manix 2 translucent blue. I needed to get on that one. That's that's an older knife that I know where there's one hiding that I need to buy it before somebody else does. And Benchmade wise, I hate Benchmade as a company, but I want a weekender, and I don't know. I'd like to have an Osborne, but they want too much fucking money for those things. A lot of people be like, they want too much for the weekender. Yeah, but I think that's going to be the only Benchmade I own, and as such, I don't know. It's in that Jack Wolf territory, right? It's a $235 slip joint, but it's made by Benchmade, and it's going to hold its value. That's the thing with that Jack Wolf too, is like a lot of people don't get that. Like, I'm going back to assuming that either we're going to get nuked or the world's going to keep on spinning. And if that's the case, then fuck all this prepping shit. In a way, I'm going to buy knives. I have prepped my ass off for the last 2 years. I have more shit than I've ever had to survive the end of the world. I'm focusing back on pocket knives because honestly, I'm depressed as fuck, and the knives make me happy. Anyway, where we're at, Weekender. This is the argument for buying the Jack Wolf too, is basically that eventually it's going to be worth money or whatever, but like, this is going to be a thing. If that Jack Wolf is meant to be, it'll still be there in 3 months when I get done buying other shit, because I mentioned that I'm getting knives from Blazer, getting a shotgun from Blazer too, and I have to do that on April 1st or 2nd, whenever that is, because I'm going to go see Blazer, or, well, we're going to meet halfway. Whenever I do that, I'm going to make a fucking video hanging out with him. Probably make 2 videos. A short one, showing you guys what he looks like or whatever, and then camera up like this, probably at the casino, because we're going to meet halfway between us, and we're going to meet at some little casino in the middle of nowhere, and probably just chit-chat and have pizza. I don't know. That's my suggestion of things to do. Mainly because I'm a cheap fucker, and the casino gives you free drinks as long as they're not alcoholic, which neither one of us really want to get fucking hammered. And you can get a pizza with like anything you want on it for $9. And they have a lot of toppings. I don't know, that's kind of cool. And like, I don't really care what we go do. It's mostly about like chit chatting and hanging out and whatever while we're, meeting up to trade money and knives and guns and shit. Interesting part is I sold him this shotgun. It's a H&R NEF, I don't remember which. single shot break action. I cut it to 18.5 inches, put a bead on it, and I cut a rear sight into the receiver. And it has a 9mm adapter with it. So it was shooting. I had water bottles out at like 15 yards, and I could hit them with my sights. So I was impressed with myself. I think, honestly, having any sort of sight to fucking know where you're at is better than having nothing. And, like, if you make it straight, like, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. Basically, what I did was take a triangle file and carve a notch as a rear reference for that bead. And you put the ball in the cup. And it, makes you pretty consistent. And that shotgun bead was put on by a professional, so it's centered. I don't know. Back to knives. I kind of think that in the market that we're going into, there's no sense in putting money in the stock market. There's no sense in really investing in technology at this particular moment. The stuff that I'm investing in is gold, silver, and high-end pocket knives. This is half of why I was getting rid of the copper and the nickel. I started realizing with the metal that, like, in reality, I need gold. I want to have some silver, and I'm going to keep a copper bar and my copper knife. I'm trading all that copper to Jeff because, that and the nickel together is 22 pounds of metal. And it's worth a knife. Or two. And, that puts things into perspective. I could have a box of knives and a sleeve of coins and be way better off. And especially as someone whose savant skill it is to sell fucking knives. Like, I don't know. One of my other, like, plans, I guess, eventually is I really want to have the van and then have a portable awning thing with a table and sell knives by the side of the road. Wouldn't that be fucking cool? Like Ray Ray's portable knife shop. I'd have to, like, stock it with things I find cheap or whatever, or get a distributor. I have inroads to get distributors. I have inroads at making my own line of production knives, too. I'm kind of looking at that. Whenever I do that, I'm going to make pocket fixed blades. And, maybe I'm getting the Essie research on the competition or whatever. Not really, but it'd be a totally different kind of game from them. Like, I'd probably make, well, if you see my drawings, you know what I would make. Cord wrapped handles, Kydex sheaths, classic designs, Bowie blade, dagger blade, Buck 110 style blade, that kind of shit. The knife I'm getting from Jeff, and then shit like that Jack Wolf or the Weekender or some of the Balisongs I'd like to buy. I'm really kind of figuring on buying some of those and having the fun of opening them and playing with them, and then I'm just going to put them back in their package and put them on a shelf. There's several Balisongs I'd love to get, but, like, the cheap one's $400. The expensive one's like $700. There's a fucking Kershaw I want to get with a Damascus blade that you can get replacement scales for that look like fucking like Ray-Ban tortoiseshell sunglasses. That looks sick. Those are at Knife Center. They're made by Flightanium for the Kershaw Lucha. I think those with a Damascus blade would look so fucking tight. But the Damascus bladed Kershaw Lucha is $300. So that ain't gonna happen. And the scales are $175. And this is like, I don't know. I wish someone would make some fucking cheap scales to replace the Lucha scales, because the Lucha scales are stainless steel, and stainless steel Bally's suck. The heavier the scales, the worse your cuts are. So the reason to go for a titanium or aluminum Balisong is because they don't cut you as bad. So it's one of those things that, like, oh, well, you should just buy the steel one and learn to live with it. Nah. One is definitely more flippable than the other. And it's, valleys are weird. You're in a realm where there's a whole bunch of people that don't blink an eye at spending $1,000 on a fucking knife. Maybe not $1,000, but definitely $500. The new Benchmade hotness is like $650, and that's where the Bally market is now. It's at that 500 to 700 range or higher. There's quite a bit higher that's like custom or whatever, but like it seems like the production Balisong game has gone up to that $600 level. That's fucking insane to me. The most expensive Bally I've ever owned was $300, and it was a Benchmade, if I remember right. I'm trying to think if I've owned anything more expensive than that. I think that's it, though. And this is where the Boker Balisong that I want to get is only $90. And it has, a D2 blades like a lot of the Benchmade shit does. Oh. And the Smoky Mountain Knife Works version has carbon fiber scales with blue hardware. That's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to get that and the SE4. Other than those two, I don't know. I go back and forth. That Case 1095 Trapper is currently what I'm planning on getting, but that could change. Oh. There's also some knives from Rough Rider, Rough Rider Reserve. They're all in D2, and they all have micarta scales. I basically love everything about those knives, and there's 2 or 3 different patterns of that I'd like to get. And those knives are only like $60, $50, depends on the model. There's one that is the Rough Rider Reserve Barlow. That's a slick knife. It's sold out at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, but you can get it at Chicago something or other. Knife something. Chicago Knife Outlet. Something or other. And it's only $37, $39, something like that there. I would get that knife. That is one of the better looking knives that I've been looking at. I want to get the Rough Rider shit in hand and in person, but assuming that it's as nice as everyone says it is, I really would like to get that knife. And this is where I've been watching a shit ton of knife reviews while shopping. And like, this is the way, basically. I've been doing this for years. You put on Knife TV and you fucking get your iPhone out and go to your website where you're shopping for knives and just fucking, shop for knives for fucking days. It's fun. And now there's, Knife Center has a very good channel. Smoky Mountain Knife Works has a decent channel. Blade HQ has a decent channel. And these are the modern, knife show late at night on the fucking cable or whatever. But it's so much better than those used to be, because now instead of like junk, they're actually selling you decent shit. I love it. However, it's making me very poor. Not really. I I have not spent that much on knives, really. I guess I don't know. I've piled up all the knives I've bought over the last like year or so since I broke up with Dakota. This is the thing you got to get is I went from making my own knives and selling off a knife collection to fund doing that to not having money to replace said knife collection because of drug habit and 19-year-old girlfriend to now, you know, I made a bunch of money selling the car. I spent it fairly responsibly, which didn't include any pocket knives except for a $20 buck knife. Yeah, that was, I did buy a K-Bar Becker because I wanted to try it. I actually ended up selling it. The reason I sold it is it never really tickled my fancy. I did like the handle, but there's lots of other shit about that thing that I'm like, I should have done a review on that. And this is where eventually I want to do knife review videos on the stuff that I buy, but we're not there yet. And I kind of like, there's several things in the past year that I should have done a review on. Anywho, trying to think of where we were. Knife TV, shopping for shit. Doesn't really matter. Uh, fuck. I hate it when that happens. Welcome to smoking weed and talking about knives. So, I'm going to take a hit and try to think about where we were for a second. Well, we mentioned all those YouTube shows. And of those companies, Blade HQ, I think, is kind of shitty. I would rather not buy from them. Knife Center, I think, is good people, but they don't have the Zezel thing to split into 4 payments. Smoky Mountain Knife Works does. Smoky Mountain Knife Works also gave me 2 coupons within like a week. One for 10% off, one for 5% off. And that's where, it's going to be really hard not to spend all my money at Smoky Mountain Knife Works if they're going to keep giving coupons that are free shipping plus any percent off while having that split into 4 payments bullshit. Especially 10, 15, 20% coupons, you're going to get me, I'm going to rack up quite a bill. 10% off has me spending $300. Could you imagine what would happen if they gave me 25? If they gave me 25, I would be eating fucking ramen noodles for a while because we'd be getting a lot of fucking knives. And this is where, like, maybe I should get a fucking wholesaler fucking thing. Save me money doing this shit. But, like, really, I'm not buying that many knives. I would need to sell them to fucking justify doing that. And, like, there is some logic of, like, hey, there's gun shows and shit, and we could just have a knife table. But there's a billion other people doing that. Like, the thing would be is to get really nice, cheap knives. Like, I don't know how to say this, but there's shit like this Kershaw that's $30 that I would own. Okay, there's a whole bunch of shit in the $30 realm that is not worth shit. Okay, so my thought is filter out like that and have like a fucking roadside stand that you could pop up at like concerts and shit, selling shit like this at like a markup instead of bringing a bunch of fucking, I don't know, hate to say Rough Rider knives because I was just talking about Rough Rider Reserve, but the Rough Rider Reserve knives look considerably better than the old Rough Rider knives that I'm familiar with. And I don't know, maybe the new Rough Rider knives are good too, but like, I've had shitty pocket knives before. I wasn't really that impressed. I am with this thing. And the Rough Rider Reserve, I think, is going to be a lot like this. And this is where, you know, if you could get a wholesaler relationship to get just the Rough Rider Reserves and a handful of other shit, dude, you could make so much bank just sitting up at like an outdoor music festival or something like that, or like a boat and RV show. Like, there's all sorts of places where you could set up and sell traditional pocket knives that you couldn't sell a lot of other shit. You know, maybe have a few tactical widgets or whatever, but you don't make it some mall ninja heaven. Make it like a little covered awning thing with a table full of knives. And half of this is like, I would really like to fucking go out west and just roam around a little bit and have some sort of a way to make money while I'm doing it. And having a big fucking barrel of knives would certainly do that. I used to help a guy named Carl Lang. He had Boss Lang's knife shop in, like, I think it was El Paso, something like that. Big, big knife shop. But he would come up here to Tulsa to do gun shows. And I met him when I was a kid, just hanging around bored at gun shows. And he had a bunch of knives, and I'd talk knives with him. And I would like to replicate his setup, because what he would do is get a whole island of knives, get a whole island of tables, fill it completely with display cases, make a little like cage around him, and just have a shitload of knives. And like, I think in reality he overdid it. I think you should have one table, and you should get the display cases to keep your shit from getting stolen. But you know, you get like 4 of those, and you prop them open, and you have something on the sides to keep people from reaching in. That's, you know, where you sell your knives, over the fucking glass counter. And like, that would work at gun shows. And then if you did it out in a tent and all that shit, you could just close them up and lock them up and whatever. Like, if you're sleeping there in the van, I don't know. This is my nostalgic, romantic fucking dream of like roaming the West and being able to self-fund while you do it. I've got like some hobo vibes going on in me now because of some of the shit going on in the world. Like, it's got me literally to the point where I'm like wanting to go jump freight cars and shit. And, you know, there's something, you know, to be said about the pocket knife of the hobo, I guess. It's probably one of his few possessions. And this is like, you know, again, kind of where my head is at in life, is like, what's important, really? Well, it's looking like we're probably going to be hobos, so maybe I should have a good pocket knife. Beyond that order at Smoky Mountain, I don't know what I'm going to get. There's so many fucking options. I have a laundry list of shit that I would like to get. I think that SE 4 is going to happen. Having a big slab of S35 VN, just, I don't know, that sounds cool to me. I might get it reprofiled into a sharper thing, though. It depends on how it comes. Like, I remember SE's kind of being a little, I don't know, like, they're not sharpened the way I would sharpen a knife. Let's put it that way. And that does kind of make me hesitant a little bit on that. I still want to get a Cold Steel dagger, the Cold Steel boot knife. If you're looking for just a cool knife for $50, the Cold Steel Drop Forge boot knife is that's on my list of shit to buy. Well, this has been, the knife show, I guess, for what it was worth. There's a part of me that wants to collect Balisongs. That I keep coming back to the fact that they're too fucking expensive. This is where, like, I'm going to get that Boker, and I'm probably going to get a Kershaw Lucha, and I'm going to get replacement scales for it. And I think I'm probably just going to call it good on Balisongs, because if you don't, it's kind of like the pocket knife thing. Like, if you buy a fucking Jack Wolf and a Benchmade Weekender, like, that's the gateway to spending $300 every couple of weeks on fucking slip joints. Which, honestly, at some point, you'd make a lot of fucking money selling them on eBay. And this is where, like, there are better hobbies to have than preparing for the end of the world. There are better hobbies to have than, a lot of shit that I don't know, I've been focusing on over the last few years, and I'm going to keep focusing on some of this to some extent. But at least for now, I'm taking a big break and doing a bunch of knife shit. Which I think we've done this several times now. Every once in a while, I just spend all my money on fucking pocket knives. It's sort of like every once in a while, I spend all my money on gun stuff. Except the gun stuff is sort of like, I have a list of like about $5,000 worth of gun shit that I need. I consider that to be a prep. I like to hit that list every once in a while too. The knife shit, I don't know. Is it a prep? Like, this is my question to you: is I consider this to be like a trade and barter item that is near on par with a pistol in the end of the world. If you have really, really nice pocket knives, again, this is, and it depends on where you're going to be trading and who you're going to be trading with and shit, right? But like, in the end of the world, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to have a billion shitty fucking AR-15s or a billion shitty pocket knives or whatever. I don't think that's the way to go. Your billion shitty pocket knives is probably worth something. But like, what is that Jack Wolf, whatever it is, worth to some fucker who has everything? Yeah, this is the shit you should probably, like, what's highly portable that's a trade commodity that, like, to me, this is pistols, pocket knives, and gold. And I would consider all of those equally valuable. Maybe that's a silly way to be. I need gold. That's the real answer to a lot of this is, I don't know, I'm getting a tackle box to keep all the fucking knives and shit in, I think. I have one picked out. I might do that this week. And it would be cool to have a fucking section of the fucking knife box that is like a tube of fucking gold coins. My thought on this is basically, if you were going to grab one thing and head for the hills, the knife collection with the gold coins in it might be high on the list of shit to grab. And I know, like, a whole bunch of people are like, oh, well, you can't eat that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, the reality of the situation is that you can't carry enough food to sustain yourself. So you're probably going to be trading with somebody. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but it seems to me that having some cool pocket knives brings enjoyment to your life, and I would throw them in the trade or barter section with gold and pistols and alcohol and weed and a lot of other shit. I guess maybe I'm just like running the world's best store in the end of the world, from my like tent on the side of the road. That's, maybe that's a role to play. Yeah. In our fucking like post-apocalyptic fucking RPG, I'm the junk seller. Got any junk for sale? Junk for sale. I kind of want to look at Tops knives too, but like I'm already sold on the Essie, and I kind of got turned off by Tops when I noticed that their people look like they all belong in some sort of a tactical cult. Like they're the exact sort of people that would wear a tactical kilt, which I am, strangely against. I think if you're gonna wear a kilt, it should be a fucking kilt. The whole like, we're gonna make a kilt out of fucking tent fabric, and it's like this stiff like schoolgirl skirt thing. Like, I don't know. It looks really atrocious. You you look ridiculous. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Yeah, I'm gonna get an Essie and S35VN, I guess. Although, like, there's a part of me that's like, you should get the 1095. The S35VN to me gets me an uncoated blade, which I think is going to look cool with my red scales that I'm going to buy. And I kind of want this to be like a James Bond knife. Like, this is like the thing you have is like your spy knife. It's like a dive knife slash survival slash we're gonna cut coconut on a desert island with this. I don't know. That's why I'm thinking S35 though. I think for everything that I would ever use it for, S35 is gonna be better. Like having a non-coated blade is gonna be better in general, and like I don't want to have rust issues on my fucking everything knife if I uncoat it, and I would. I don't know. I think this is where S35VN makes sense. I'm usually a very pro carbon steel kind of person. Oh, but I really want, I don't know, one knife that I really don't have to give a fuck about. And I think this would be better in S35VN. There's a part of me that keeps looking at the fucking, their SE3, 4, and 6 HMs, which are handle modifications. Those look cool. They're like a broomstick handle kind of thing. But like the whole reasoning behind buying the SE4 to me was to get the cool handle. So I don't know. They lost me on those. Well, we've already tried to end the knife show once, and we just kept going. So we're really ending it now. I'll see you guys later.